June 20th, 2021. Episode 8, All Aboard. Weather forecast, clear skies. Once we were outside, I asked everyone to meet up, and mentioned to them that Kyokyojo had a proposition for them. He was frustrated, somehow being under the impression that I was supposed to have told everyone about this before the trial. I had been working in the library non-stop for days. I clearly told him we would meet up with everyone after the trial to discuss, but he strikes me as the type to only hear the parts he wants to hear. Well, regardless, I did my best to fill the party in on what he intended for us to do, concerning this dragon, Relajavaic. I again reasoned why I thought it was an unrealistic task, but Kyokyojo seemed hard-pressed to just leave town and begin. Mind you, he still had no plan at all. I suggested he sell his idea to the group much like he had tried to do with me. Thane was the most doubtful of our capabilities, aside from myself. He did inquire about the price of a reward despite this. Kyokyojo basically answered him with your standard, as many riches as you can imagine response. Same thing he had basically pitched to me. Unlike myself, Thane actually seemed interested, but I could also read doubt in him. Almost as though he didn't trust Kyokyojo. Svend seemed on board the moment I had mentioned that Kyokyojo's intention was to repay his family's debt. He said he was willing to help with an honorable goal such as that. Moose also seemed willing to help for a few reasons. She just had said that her parents might need some convincing. I reiterated that the adventure was too fascinating for me to outright refuse, but that we still had other obligations in the meantime. So just picking up and leaving town, to head in a direction with an almost unreachable goal, didn't seem like the right way to handle something like this. I think Kyokyojo has made it pretty clear that unlike some of us, he just wishes to be far, far away from home as soon as possible. The discussion ended up being side-tabled for the time being as we received glares from the nearby guards. Svend made to push Moose and myself towards the Adventurers Guild, saying that we should just focus on getting our court-ordered licenses for the moment. We found ourselves back at that dark and brooding place, in front of the tiefling man, whom we had seen Svend arguing with on day one of meeting everybody. A mere wit. Soon to be not my most favorite guy in town. Unbeknownst to me at the time. He explained to us that in order to get our licenses, we were expected to complete 5 adventuring quests. We looked to the quest board and as we begun to ask about each one, it became clear that our choices were limited. He claimed it was due to us being first-time adventurers. I inquired about what we were allowed to do then, and he answered with only one. The venomous ambushing troll quest. Of course. Why not? Not my first pick, probably not my second either, but definitely Mirwit's first pick. It was his quest actually. The deal also extended to him taking half the reward interestingly enough. I accepted those terms naively, and then asked him for what information he could provide us on the quest. I got a bit frustrated when I realized he also wanted us to pay him 1 gold, for that as well. I asked Svend if this was normally how he was. Thane tried to talk him out of the price, and he attempted to swipe the information right from Amir's hand. But Kyokyojo ended up paying him the 1 gold. We took the information and left. The info he gave us warned of the troll having regenerative capabilities. That the best way to defeat a troll such as this one was to attack it with the element it was weakest to, so as to allow it not to regenerate. It also mentioned staying out of close quarters range as much as possible, due to the way it hurled its venom. I knew that this wasn't going to happen with a few certain people. We hit up the shops in the area, starting with Alchemically Yours. We discussed our troll quest with the shopkeeper, and he suggested buying anti-venom, so I purchased 1 vial of it. Moose and Thane were able to cut a deal with the shopkeep for the 2 glowing mushrooms she had picked up in the Hark's lair. She managed to get her hands on 2 healing potions as well. From there, I chose to head to the library to see if I could find out any more on venomous trolls, while the others kept up on their shopping. I had to let the party know I didn't have much luck on learning more about trolls when I met up with them again. Svend gave me an exploding ring with 3 charges I guess. I haven't held one of those in a long time. Moose also gave me some colored chalks that write in the air, in some of my favorite colors. I thanked them both for the gifts. We made our way towards the fortified Brave Gate. On our way out, one of the guards warned us about said troll. I asked him if he had any tips or advice to provide. He did not. He basically just told us that he knew the troll was formidable, based on what he had seen of the injured people who had escaped it. He would soon prove to be right. As we traveled the road, I asked Thane if he would be willing to use his light feet to scout ahead. He begrudgingly agreed. I wish I hadn't asked him to. Things went horribly wrong from there. A misstep caused Thane to trip, and the troll was quick to follow through with what you could imagine it would, based on the quest name, the ambushing troll. Both its attack and venom proved to be brutal, as Thane fell unconscious right in front of the monster. Svend was quick to run at the troll with his sword drawn. He managed to leave it injured, but not without being attacked himself. Svend, cutting it with his sword, allowed the troll to unleash its venom onto everyone who was closest to it. Moose was able to get Thane back up on his feet, thanks to her potion, but not before he was hit while down by some of the troll's venom. Once up, Thane took that opportunity to move out of danger, away from the troll. The troll, then looking for revenge, made an attack on Svend. The claw attacks and venom caused him to go down as well. Kyokyojo and I were trying our best to use our magic. I was watching carefully, trying to see if I could tell which type of damage was keeping it from regenerating. Moose's shocking grasp hadn't seemed to work. The force damage from catapult didn't seem to do much, and even the cold damage wasn't quite getting the job done. It wasn't until I saw Thane use burning hands did I notice a difference. Even after figuring this out, the battle still proved to be nearly deadly. I remember little of what happened after the troll pursued Moose. I know it turned towards me after I had managed to hit it with a fiery chromatic orb. I remember it charging at me and some kind of pain. The type of pain that knocks you from your senses, so you feel like an outsider watching from above. I remember covering my mouth, looking down at my trembling hand to see it covered in blood that had spilled from my own lips. And then nothing. It all went dark after that. Later I awoke from the ground. A healing aura coming from one of Moose's small cannons was surrounding me. I looked beside me and saw that Kyokyojo had also been down, and was stirring awake. Svend had managed to kill the troll, or so I was told. I looked to him and asked for a drink from his flask. I think I almost died on this day. And I think that if he is going to continue to save my life, I should try a little harder to understand him and not judge him so harshly. I also then made it a point to thank Moose for saving me with her magic. Now that the fight was over and we were somehow all alive, most of the others set about the task of taking from the corpse of the troll. Svend cut off its ears. Moose and Thane used vials they had purchased from Alchemically Yours to gather up some of its venom. After a little more rummaging, Moose and Thane wandered around until they found a den nearby. One the troll had likely been living in. In the den they found a number of items, not sure all of what they were. Finally, we headed back to town as evening fell. We let the guard know at the gate that we were victorious in defeating the troll, and then we marched our way right back to the adventuring guild. Witt had just been closing the guild for the evening as we arrived. I ordered Svend to not let him close shop. Svend kicked the door back open, and then pressed the gross troll ears into Ermir's hand. Not going to lie, watching him slather Ermir's jewelry with troll's blood was satisfying. Ermir gave us our reward, and as we moved to pick out our next quest, we threw the pressure onto him. I asked him if I would be able to find out he was lying about certain quests only being available to first-time adventurers. Ermir did not appear intimidated by what I was suggesting, but when Svend mentioned speaking to other adventurers around town about some of what we were being told, he changed his tune rather fast after hearing that. We managed to collect the entire reward for the troll, and Ermir offered us the same for the next quest we took on. He also asked us about which element ended up working best on the troll. I really didn't want to tell him, but the guilt of other adventurers being up against the same threat. That pushed me to tell him it was fire. We left there, all wanting to rest for the night, and choosing to return the next day to pick out our next quest. I asked everyone if they were okay with choosing the map translation quest, only because I thought maybe it was something I could get done quickly. To my surprise, everyone was on board with that. Maybe still weary from the troll quest. Ermir gave us the information. The person who submitted the quest was Liesel Flintrest, a dwarven woman, near Moose, in the Hearth district. It is basically in the middle of the suburbs part of town. She found an old map while digging through her grandfather's belongings. The reward was 55 shards, and Ermir agreed to let us have the whole lot of it. We headed out, and went to Alchemically Yours again. Moose and Thane sold the shopkeeper their venom vials. I picked up a healing potion myself, and I believe both Thane and Moose purchased some more potions as well. The shopkeeper inquired about us taking his escort mission for the Misty Forest. I told him we weren't unwilling to, but that we would consider it for another day. From there, we headed to Hearth District and knocked on the door of Liesel, a kind lady who made us tea. I asked her to look at the map. Right away I was able to recognize and read the language. It was Celestial, though the map was unique from anything I had ever seen. The locations did look familiar to maps of present day. It was a very stylized map with monsters drawn about. The walled town on it was marked as Secomber. There was a zigzagging path that led away from town, through a hilly area that ended at another walled area, marked with an X. Based on current maps, I could see that this was in the Highmoor. The most puzzling part of it, though, was the text at the top that read, "Rest of the Avenger." I asked Liesel about her grandfather. She mentioned he was a cleric of Helm. I wrote out what the map said and spoke to her about it. Upon hearing this, she immediately grew excited beyond measure. Much in the way of Moose and Kyokyojo, she insisted we leave that instant to go to the Highmoor, where the X was on the map. We tried to explain to her why that wasn't something we could just go and do. I disclosed to her that we weren't licensed adventurers yet. I brought up the case with Malik and how we were almost arrested, ourselves. Upon hearing that, she knew who I was. She appealed to me with a need about how desperately she wanted to know more about her family history. She added to it by saying how she had been waiting for so long to learn a single thing. I looked to the group for help. I was useless here. I can understand her plight, because I feel much the same about my mother and my elf heritage. The others stepped in. I believe it was Thane who managed to convince her that preparing properly for the trip at least was in our best interest. The Highmoor was dangerous. She apologized for being rash, as she had at one point even said she would journey alone if she had to. She listened to reason thankfully, and we agreed to meet her at her home in the morning. I told her I would do my best to read up more on the area before we set out. We left her house and returned to Ermir with a note from Liesel, letting him know we had completed the quest. We were able to collect our reward and mark another of our 5 quests down. 3 more to go, before those of us who aren't licensed adventurers are made official. But first, I guess we're off to escort Liesel as safely as possible to the Highmoor upon first light. I'm really hoping this next venture goes smoother, but when it comes to the Highmoor, I have my doubts. End of chapter. Notes that Siluca doesn't or wouldn't know. The other name to this episode could be, The Gang Goes to the Toy Store, Illuminations Curiosities and Toys. Moose and Thane both play with the Stone of the Meek. Thane is able to pick it up, but it isn't easy. The kids are able to pick it up and throw it with ease. They mention they have never seen a grown-up be able to do it. Moose isn't able to pick it up at all and becomes discouraged. Next, Moose tries the selfish seashell. She puts it up to her ear and listens to it. It asks her to borrow some chocolate, so she gives it some with the promise of getting it back. The Furbolg shop owner laughs and tells her that the seashell won't give her chocolate back. The crew enjoys the rest of the oddities of the toy shop with the local kids. Svend even buys the bunch of them some exploding rings. Svend and Thane go to humble chance enchantments with the weapons they got from the Hark's lair. Svend gets distracted by an impressive hammer floating on a pedestal near the entrance. He makes friends with the pretty dwarven shopkeeper Telchar Brightmaster. He leaves Cyanrath's spear with her, and is owed a future favor. Thane asked Telchar about the 2 scimitars he had taken from the Hark's lair. He found out she could disenchant them, but he chose to hold on to the both of them, for the time being.